The end of a year is naturally a reflective time, a chance to look back on the amazing things that we've all done. And for us, none more so than drive the McLaren P1, I think my car of the year. Anyhow, I've not driven it on the road or had the chance to enjoy it in the UK, so we thought we'd have a little adventure, but we needed a starting point, and that starting point has to be Anglesey circuit, right up here in North Wales. So we'll have a little skid round here and then wobble it on some roads and end up at my other new home, Goodwood. 2 days in a McLaren P1 on the road in the UK. To say I'm excited is an understatement. If we're going to go on a little pilgrimage in the P1 to celebrate what I think is probably my car of the year, then I wanted it to be between two significant places. And the first of those is Anglesey, because we've had so much fun here in the last few years, and especially this year. So I thought, let's start by a bit of track work. P1 around Anglesey. 1,000 horsepower or thereabouts around this sensational little circuit. Wowzers. I mean, you just hang on. I've not got the full race mode on because we're not going for lap times. Woking didn't want us doing that, which is fair enough. Let's just say she picks up quite well down the back of the circuit. That is outrageous. Yeah, comfortably the quickest thing I've driven down there. Wow. Oh, Christ. Oh, well, it's got some grunt. It's quite stiff over this bumpy circuit, but the way it picks up, what's that down there? 130 something. I don't think I've ever been in a car that'll do that there. And stop. The brakes are magnificent. You just keep pulling the gears. Wow, wow, wow. Hit the brakes. Oh, those Acobonner brakes are sensational. And still, we just about make our apex, and then it's just gas, gas, gas. Good Lord, it's fast, guys. Really fast. But it's exciting, and it will move around a bit as well. Come in a bit quick, and you can gas it and get angles. You shouldn't be able to do that with nearly 1,000 horsepower. That's a figure from my childhood dreams. To think I'd be driving a hypercar with nearly 1,000 horsepower around this place. Okay, so we're not doing lap times, I promised you that. So we're going to go on a little pilgrimage. I thought I'd do some laps first, just to set the tone, like an aperitif before the main meal. And these are warming me up, and these are warming up my interest in this car, but we need to go and see what it's like to live with this thing, drive it on the road, maybe even go to the shops in it. Oh, did I ever tell you that I really, really like my job? I do, I really, really, really like my job. Oh, this thing. Whoa, 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 whoa. That torque, 8,500 revs. And I'm partly doing this because even if I had the best road trip in the world, even if I had the best fun on the road, I would know I'd be frustrated if I hadn't used full power for quite a long time. And this is kind of purging me of that need. Maybe a hypercar drive is better and safer if you behave like a bit of a wally somewhere where you can do it legally. And then when I go out on the road in a minute, I won't feel quite so inclined to give it the full potatoes whenever I get the chance. That remains to be seen though. What a great way to start what is going to be 2 rather good days. Wowzers. Now you'll think this sounds really odd after just watching us fling a £1 million car around on a track like some £3 E30 BMW, but this is the bit I'm most apprehensive about. I've not really driven many hypercars on the road before. I did a little bit in the LaFerrari, but that was just ludicrous. So here we are in good old Welsh Wales, and to start with, look at this junction here. How do I get round there? I've got to somehow squeeze my way round. There we go. Right, so what mode am I in? Well, I'm in everything automatic, and I've got my handling in normal and my powertrain in normal. So I've got the thing as supple as I can. First things first, there ain't much sound deadening in your P1. There's just a carbon tub, and you can hear all those stones pinging, and they spend their whole time rattling up the underside of the car. That's either charismatic or irritating depending on how you're going to use the car. I think most people won't be using their P1 to commute daily. It's not a big car. It doesn't feel as intimidating as the LaFerrari on the road. It's physically actually not too big. So you can thread it quite nicely. The steering is really good. Not kind of bristling with life, but just a really good speed and gives me confidence. I can just put the car into a turn, hang it on the inside of that white line that you always do in these wide things, and then just add a bit of throttle. And here's the strange bit, I don't even think about the straight line performance on the road. There's no point in even trying to chase the throttle, because if you do, you're actually going to go too fast. So what you need to do actually is maybe just stick it into the manual gearbox mode, as I've got here, leave the chassis nice and soft, and then just not use too much throttle, enjoy the chassis and the composure. Let's try that. So, it's fourth gear over this crest. It's actually very, very pleasant. And you can enjoy the speed of the steering, the fact that it soaks up the bumps. You can drive it like a 650S, you can drive it like a 911 or something that's generally a lesser car. But that's quite difficult to swallow if you've just spent your million or whatever on the car, because if you only drive it like you do one of those, what's the point in having this car? Well, I suppose for those who are terminally unhinged, you can go and drive this thing as fast as you want to on the public road. I would in no way condone that. It would be psychotic. But there we go, there will always be people that want to do that stuff. There is a lot to be had from the chassis though. It's a really, really enjoyable car to drive in its own right, regardless of all that performance. And I do feel like a complete rock star in it. I really do. Glass roof, crazy carbon everywhere. The more time I spend in this car with its dash architecture, the more I think it's a more attractive design than the LaFerrari. It just feels mega. Mega, mega, mega. That throttle response on the road, that makes it a much easier car to drive than you'd expect. Because you can meter out that torque, and it's not too intimidating. I mean, of course, you don't ever just mash the throttle down, you just blend the throttle in. By the time you reach what feels like about a half or a third of throttle, you think, well, that's enough. And the number's already absurd, so you've got to be a little bit careful. It's got so much composure, it's a lovely chassis. And as you get the speed building, the damping can really start to work. Then it's mega, absolutely mega. You just thread it along. And this steering, look how measured I can be with the steering. I don't have to just edge and nip at the wheel. Just make nice, deliberate movements with the wheel. It's lovely. Yes. Gear shift is great. Perhaps not quite as quick. If I had it in the really fast mode, it would be perfect, but I want the powertrain to be a bit more relaxed. And you could just go up a gear, up a gear, up a gear, and just use the torque. Yes, you can enjoy the P1 at half sensible speed. You don't need to be going completely loopy in it. It's got real balance. So on the open road, we know this thing is a bit of a honey. But I've got time left with the P1, so what else do you do when you've got one of these things for 2 days? I mean, there's a chance I might never drive this car again. I need to get some sleep tonight because it's been a long old couple of weeks, so I can't just drive through the night. What else would you do? Well, I suppose you'd go and see a friend or put a stranger in the car just so they've experienced it. I feel you have a social responsibility, a civic duty to allow other people to experience these things. You'd go and park it outside your pub, wouldn't you? Just so your mates could see it. You'd maybe go somewhere where you could drive it really, really fast in a straight line, just so you could experience that speed. Let's see how many of those things that we can cover off in the next 24 hours. So have you been in like a Enzo or something super quick like that?
I haven't, to be honest. No.
We just so heavily turbocharged, third gear at 3,000. Woo! Just goes.
We'd had a good thrash on the track, driven some of Wales's finest roads, altered a fellow petrolhead's understanding of the word fast, and now we wanted a curry and a beer. Tomorrow we'd take the P1 to the Bruntingthorpe runway and demonstrate its extraordinary pace against Audi's brilliant RS6.
So, this is not science as you or anyone else knows it, and it's not actually a comparative test. That's an Audi RS6, that's the one I'm running at the moment. That's a conventionally very, very fast car indeed. In fact, I don't think I've ever been overtaken in it on the road. It's that accelerative, 0 to 100 in about 8 seconds. It will demolish, pulverise a normal car. But I want to show you what a P1 is like next to that. And this is a wet surface today. I've got the car in automatic gearbox mode. Just have a look what happens now. There he goes. We got a bit of traction. I mean, it's wheel spinning all over the place. Now it goes. Whoa, it's lit up in fourth. Fifth, that's 150 straight away in the wet. 160, 70, 180, 190. Dearie me. Well, that's 200. It's still going. 207. It's just hit a limiter at 206 miles an hour. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Let's not crash into the 747 at the end of right. That's a graphic demonstration of just raw straight line speed. When you're in the RS6, it's hard to comprehend that any car could accelerate faster even on a damp surface, but you saw once we got up to about 70 miles an hour, even third and fourth gear, I didn't have anything like full traction, and we still stormed past him. It's moving around a fair amount. I have to say, my trust is in the systems. They are incredible. I've got the traction left on fully, and it's just managing everything for me. If I didn't have those on, I would crash.
At this point I hadn't managed to plonk a friend in the passenger seat, so I phoned my pal Chris, and he had his brain frazzled by the P1, and then we set off in convoy to Goodwood, in the traffic, in the rain, doing the daily grind, and the P1 was still ace. We arrived at the circuit with it covered in mud and scum, parked it in a hangar and poured over it.
I need to talk you around the cabin of this incredible car, because much as the driving experience is amazing and looking at it from the outside is an event, inside this is seriously cool. You start off with what I think is the best seating position of any super hypercar. I know these things are subjective, but you can get the wheel just where you want it. The seat is just the right height, very supportive. I know all this is bespoke for hypercar owners, but for me, this car is bang on. So you feel comfortable and you don't feel intimidated because the scuttle is so low. You have a great panoramic view forwards. Of course, the rear visibility is a joke. I mean, it doesn't have so much a blind spot as kind of a place where a bus can hide when you pull out onto the M40, but it's a hypercar, you can't have everything. Ahead, steering wheel, very simple, not like LaFerrari, no buttons everywhere. DRS to stall your rear wing, that's really not very handy on the M40 either, and your iPass button as well. Then 2 paddles fixed to the wheel. Unlike LaFerrari, again, they have the paddles fixed to the column and the wheel moves independently. A conventional indicator, conventional column stalks all round. Then you've got your iris display here, which is your sort of infotainment area. Surprisingly, despite the fact it's got no MVH at all, really, it's just noisy in a bare carbon tub, the hi-fi is really good. So you ramp your hi-fi up and it's a pleasant place to sit for a long journey. Bit of exhaust boom, but other than that, it's absolutely fine. Down here is where all the action happens. So you've got the conventional sort of chassis and powertrain separation on these 2 dials, and you can go a choice of 3 modes, or you can just have it fully in auto and the thing will sort itself out for you. Then you've got the whole theatre of the race mode. Neil, show them race mode now. It's really cool. It's an airy feeling cabin as well, because there's quite a lot of glass ahead of you and the roof is glass, and that is surprisingly handy, because otherwise it could feel a bit like you were crammed in, a bit claustrophobic, but it's not at all. No, it's a very, very good place to conduct your road driving activities, because it isn't intimidating. The H-point is good. It feels like a very special version of a 650S, and I think that's a good thing. So we've reached the end of our journey. It's been 561 miles so far and it's been fantastic, and we're back at Goodwood, but I always knew we couldn't do a lap of Goodwood, so we're going to drive up the hill because the circuit's closed. And there's one part of the P1 we haven't demonstrated, and that's of course its silence. So in deference and out of respect to Lord March's lovely home, I thought we'd do it quietly, so E-mode. How cool is that? I just love this. So we get to cruise along. I've got a range of about 5 or 6 miles. Isn't this just wonderful? It's quite strange coming here. This first right-hander is always tricky on the festival of speed. Never quite like this too much. How Ken Block and the others drift around there, I'll never know. But it's quite strange being here, but it's all empty because, of course, this is normally full of people when I come here, full of stands and everything. It's a bit like going to Twickenham when there's no rugby match on. And to cruise along silently in your P1, fitting end to a great couple of days. What a car this is, and all I can say is the lucky few who own one, please go out and drive your P1. I need to know they're being driven because it is the most sensational car. Entirely usable on the road, a pleasure to use, always makes you feel special. And then when you want to go, when you want to light it up, wow, it goes.